You don't know who I am, but I know all about you. I've come to talk to you tonight about the things I've seen. I've come to set the record straight. I've come to shine the light on you. Let me introduce myself. I am the cold hard truth.
All right, good evening, folks, and welcome to another segment of the Cold Hard Truth. I am your host, none other than Sandy Hill. We are pleased and delighted to have you here. We're just getting some breaking news, my apologies, on another chat format here. So you know how it goes. Things are always happening around us and in our community. Sometimes people are sending very, very confidential information to us. And that sort of ties in very nicely with what we're discussing this evening, is if you guys ever want to reach out to us to help with a matter that you're experiencing, where you've got no results, where you've turned to other avenues and other means, and you have been unable to do so, please rest assured that we are here to assist you in any way, shape, or form that we possibly can. So we always laid out a couple ground rules, which I think are quite essential to what we do, because as you guys know, we become a target for all sorts of labels. You know, people who are out there engaging in wrongdoing, they're happy to say, oh, this is fake news, this isn't true, you know, don't listen to Cayman Mall Road. So when people contact us, we always seek and ask for evidence and information to back up, you know, what the person is saying and what they're asserting. And we are not always in a position to share that evidence with you guys and to put it up here, but rest assured that, you know, we have seen it as an administrator. And so we put ourselves in a more comfortable position when we're able to do that. So this evening, we're going to be talking about individuals who decide to not pay pension. And we know that this is a very serious topic across the island. A lot of people are in court right now for non-payment of pensions all across this island. And so we're going to talk to Mr. Donovan Chambers. He's actually joining us from Jamaica this evening. You know, when the pension law was actually implemented here in the Cayman Islands, a lot of us wasn't sure how it was going to work. We didn't quite understand it, but it became the law. And as such, all employers who employed individuals have to enroll and participate in a pension plan. And you have a legal obligation under the pension law to do so. And your employer, so if you work for someone else, your employer has that legal obligation. And as the employee, when you see your paychecks every single day and you see constant deductions coming out of your paycheck, you should make sure that those deductions are actually being paid into a bona fide pension plan. And you have the right to request and to see your pension statement from your pension provider. Most of them, once you're registered, will send you like quarterly statements that then you can review. If you've not seen a statement for whatever reason, I encourage you to reach out to your pension provider so that you can obtain that information from them. Because the truth of the matter is there are too many people in the Cayman Islands who are not paying into a pension plan. Some of them we see end up in court owing $100,000 or more. And in this case, this particular individual, what makes this so interesting is this particular individual is actually a government minister, none other than Mr. Dwayne Seymour himself. So apparently Mr. Seymour has some company that does work at the airport. We're going to bring Donovan into the conversation here now, and we'll speak with Donovan, and he can tell us a little bit about his history of working with this company and perhaps, you know, some details on why his pension plan, I don't know if he can answer the why, but he knows that his pension plan was not being contributed to on a regular basis. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Donovan to the program. Good evening, Donovan. We're just bringing you in now. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Cold Hard Truth. How are you? Yes. Hi, Donovan. There you are. So
Yeah.
we've got a couple people that have already joined into the program this evening. We have over 55 people listening in. So good evening to everyone who's joining in. Donovan has limited time. So what I will do is the time that he's with us, we're going to just take the information from Donovan, lay out the facts, and then we will get back to your comments and questions a little bit later on in the program. So Donovan, tell us, you're currently now in Jamaica. So let's start at the very beginning. When did you start working for this company that we're talking about this evening, and what is the name of the company?
Okay, I started working for APS Group at the Owen Robbins International Airport in 2004.
Okay, and
I
APS
yeah,
Group is, what is it that they do?
we do. APS does aviation security for many airlines.
Mhm.
Um, the airlines that come to the airport.
Okay, all right, and we understand that Minister Seymour, who's currently a minister, owns this APS Group. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, have you ever met him on the job? Like, did you see him come there as an owner of the company, perhaps walk around, go to the company's office, anything of the sort?
Yes, he always comes around, talk, greet, and when some holidays, he just come around and spend time with his staff. Yes, I met him personally.
Okay, all right. So there's no question then in our mind that Mr. Seymour has some ownership capacity of this company.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
He's the owner.
yes, very good. So we want to make sure that we establish that, which I think it's common knowledge anyway that he owns this company. Now, when did you start working there again?
2004.
In 2004. So here we are now in 2019. So you got the job. Did you come straight from Jamaica and start in that job, or were you already on island?
I was on island already.
Okay.
I w- for like about a month, I think. A month.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they offer you this job in the capacity of a security officer, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you accept the job, you start working, everything seems okay?
Everything was great.
Yes.
Everything.
All right. So then tell us, how many years did you actually work for APS?
Well, I've been working there from 2004 to 2013 when the rollover got in effect.
Okay.
So I actually learned about my rollover when I was trying to go back to Jamaica for a weekend. Yeah, the immigration told me I have limited time.
Oh,
Then
so
soon I start.
no one told you that you're being rolled over?
I know it's good. I know the rollover was in effect, but the timeline I didn't know. No information. I was trying to
Okay.
get a range time to get out to come back.
Oh, I see. So when you worked for APS, do they have an HR manager that works for that company?
There is not an HR, but there's always somebody in the office that can assist you if you want. Need
Uh-huh.
assistant, but nobody giving me that information where I need it most.
Okay. So during this 9-year period of time, you were getting paid, you would collect your
Yes.
paycheck, and you would see certain deductions from your paycheck. Is that correct?
The question is
Mm-hmm.
the pay slip is so fine and the writing is so fine.
Right?
Sometimes I think you need a magnifying glass, and I can't see that clearly because it is so fine. It's a long strip of paper, very
Mhm,
thin with some fine writing. So when we sign the paper that we're
mhm.
going to pension to Brit you're working with a company, you work with somebody, you trust them. So I just work. He comes around, we talk.
Mhm.
He shake hands. He likes to shake hands. He likes. He says he shakes hands. He know what a man is all about. So he likes to shake hands. So
Oh,
he
really?
give you that confident. Yeah, he give you that confident. And I love that. Yo, you're secure. But at
Right.
the end of the day, nah, he's not.
All right. So you trusted him. You figure this is a man who, on face value, um, seems honest. Like he said, he likes to shake your hand because apparently that's how you measure someone's quality, which, as we can see, clearly doesn't work. But the company was paying you; they were making deductions for health and pension, and you were just going along happily accepting what it was.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, so now it comes time for you to get rolled over. What happens at that time
Yes.
when you're getting rolled over?
Okay. When immigration told me that I have limited time on the island,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I got to start moving fast with worked. I'm supposed to
Mm-hmm.
receive my check for that work period and my vacation pay and I think some sick days. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I got the check. When I keep reaching back out when I left the
Mm-hmm.
island, I keep giving a run around, run around, run around, run around.
So
So
at
I
what point, let me just ask you so we're clear now, right? At what point did you figure out or realize that your pension had not been paid?
okay, I I reached out to someone and they gave me an
Mhm.
email to the pension board
Okay.
to Britcare or pension board, one of the two. I've sent
Yes.
you email, so you have seen it. And
Yes.
I got in contact with somebody there, and the person was emailing me back and forth, back and forth. And 2017, he says, when I emailed him, he said he didn't say anything there for me. That was 2017, and he said he's going to investigate it. I've not heard back from him until sometime this month from 2017.
Okay, so I've seen those emails, so I'm going to just bring people up to speed on exactly what you're talking about. But let me just back up a little bit. Before you contacted, because that's the pension and labor office, before you contacted them, did you contact the company itself, APS, to say, hey guys, I realize you have not paid my pension. What's going on here?
When I contact, as I said, I keep getting the go around, come around, nobody answer. I'll call you back. No call return. Nobody accepting the call. So I had to
Mhm.
find other routes. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So basically, you got what these young people call ghosted. You were treated like a ghost. Nobody could see you.
Yeah, then yeah. I was
Yes.
cause I'm already off the island. So
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So at some point, then you reach out to the Labor and Pensions Office, and we do have the email here. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to try to pull that email up because we have, and I just want to make it very clear to people who listen to the program. You have provided us with documentation to demonstrate that you worked in the Cayman Islands. You provided us with your passport stamp to indicate that not only did you work in the Cayman Islands, but you actually worked for APS and the duration of time which you worked for this company as well. So there's no question in my mind about the authenticity of what you have provided to us. So here we have an email. Oh, this is not the one I want to show. Sorry, I'm just trying to do this in chronological order. Let me just see now. So I'm going to show several emails here. This one is from May the 12th of 2017, and it acknowledges that you have reached out. Now, you said that you left in 2013. What happened between 2013 and 2017?
That's when I was getting the run around and me trying to settle back into my new residence. And everybody keep running around. I'm trying settling back. And then I had to move to the States. So I keep running back where I'm living now in the States. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when I actually stop and I say, wait, got to get this pension thing sorted out. And
Mm-hmm.
I reached out to somebody in Cayman and they provided me information to the gentleman at the pension board.
Okay. All right. So basically, you went for 2013, 14, 56. So that's 4 years trying to reach out to the company, getting a
Yeah.
bit of around, and you said you were also busy trying to get yourself relocated and settled and so forth as well.
Yes.
Okay, so then he sends you this email, and this is dated again Friday, May the 12th, 2017 at 1600 hours and 29. So it says, good afternoon, I'm actually in talks with the business in relation to certain matters, which is interesting. So again, this is from Charles Best, who's a senior pensions officer. So he acknowledges that he's in communication with the company. At this time, sorry, at no time has your name come up in any of these talks or documentation. So let me just pause right there. So when I read that, that makes me think that the Labor and Pension Office was already aware of some irregularities as it relates to pension payments. and they had seen documentation and they had been in talks with this company because they could actually tell you in the negative that your name has never shown up in any of their documentation. Then he goes on to say, question is, did you know that pensions were not being paid employed from 2005? So he says here that you're employed from 2005. And if so, what was done? So he's asking you questions. And then he says, I have sent an email to the employer in relation to this, and I'm awaiting a response. What about payroll records? Are you in possession of any of those for the period that you worked? Was pension being deducted? If so, you will need to email and scan the records for my perusal attention. I think he meant to say for my personal attention, but it says for my perusal attention. One of the problems now encountered is that the absence of these records calculating for the periods owed is going to be difficult, especially if the employer has no records. The office will do our utmost best in the situation to try to resolve the matter, but I hope you would appreciate the amount of time that has lapsed between 2015 and 2017 and having departed the islands last time being November 2014. I've attached a complaint form that you have to fill out and return to our office with a scanned copy of a picture ID, which could be a driver's license or your passport, placed with your face clearly visible for recognition purposes. Looking forward to hearing from you with my queries and instructions. So when you got this email from Mr. Best, who again is a senior pensions officer at the labor office, did you do as he instructed? Did you respond to this email and respond to him with the form?
I was telling him that I couldn't download the form on my phone because actually I was using my phone when I was communicating with him. And actually, we discussed that on the phone when I think he called me and I tell him I'm using my phone. I'm on a laptop yet, and I can't get it download. And then that was the last communication verbally by phone. And the last email I think you saw there, that was it.
Okay, so you never actually filled out the form with the complete form?
No.
Okay, all right. So that's a little bit of a missing link that obviously, I guess, in terms of formality, he actually needed from you. So what happened then after that communication period in 2017, now between 2017 and 2019?
Everything went dead until I reached out to you, and again, somebody give me the information. I reached out to you in early August, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Then I
So let's
started.
just back up a little bit. When you reached out to me here, you mentioned that you had actually reached out to another news service prior as well.
Yes. I think it was Miss Wendy.
Okay.
Miss Wendy, her name is Wendy. I think Miss Wendy.
Yeah, Human News Service.
Yes, and the response I got, I think the response I got from her is like she was saying, "Remember now, Mr. Seymour is a minister." And it just went cold from there. I've been messenger, send her a message on WhatsApp because I had her number, and she never once responded after that. Never.
So the sense you got from that communication is because he's a minister, or what? He's above the law?
Yeah, that's what I get. That's what I think. Because everybody does like a stone wall.
Right. All right. Okay, so then what happened after that? You contacted us, I think it was the 8th of August of this year.
Yes, I think it was sometime there, yeah.
Yeah, and you started to explain your story, and then of course we asked for documentation to make sure that your story was truthful.
Which I provided.
And now here we are. Now, ironically, and I think this is so interesting, I do have another email here that I'd like to read, actually. Let me just make sure that this is the right one. So this goes back to, no, that's not the right one either. Hold on one second. So this goes back to 2017 as well. And this was another email that Mr. Best sent in June of 2017 at 9:34 a.m. where he says, Donovan, I'm looking into the matter as well as hundreds of others. Now, when he says hundreds of others, I don't know if it's specific to that company or just generally speaking, right? So we'll assume it's just generally speaking. Any way forward depends on several factors, one of which is the corporation of the employer, which is interesting, and calculating what was owed in the absence of records. This will take some time, and I hope you appreciate and respect the procedure that has to be undertaken. As I mentioned before, to most of your claim is out of time, so I cannot take summary court proceedings for recovery. Now, I found this very bizarre, this mention of summary court proceedings, because surely the Labor and Pension Office has enforcement powers under the law, and those enforcement powers, as we have seen, exercised with Champion House. There's been a number of different companies that have been in court for non-payment of pensions. That is actually a criminal matter. So that has nothing to do with a civil case. And if it is a criminal situation, I'm confused as to why he would say that you're out of time. Did he ever explain to you like what that meant? Or did you ask any questions about what he meant by that?
No, I didn't. I didn't. As I said, everybody keep giving me the runaround, but when somebody has contacted me and said I must speak to you, I said okay, I'm gonna. And the person tell me this young lady, Miss came on my road. She do her work and she investigate. Once it's factual and you have evidence, she see to the end.
Okay. All right. So here we are. I'm in talks with you. You've been sending me documentation. You sent me proof that you worked for APS. You sent me proof that you were even in the Cayman Islands during the time period that you said. You know, I've seen all of this documentary evidence, hardcore evidence, right? And then
Yes,
you
ma'am.
get an email from Mr. Best again at the pension office. Quite ironically, let me just pull that one up. This isn't it. Let me just pull up this last email. Any idea why all of a sudden you were getting correspondence from him again?
When I saw it, I was driving. I had to pull off the road and actually read the email because I'm like, wow, Mr. Best, remember me
Yeah. So let me
from
read this for the
2017?
benefit of those tuning into the program, right? So you went from that last email in July of 2017 to now August the 21st, which was just a couple days ago. And ironically, after you contacted me, over 2 years, Mr. Best
Yes,
reaches out
ma'am.
to you and he says, "Good afternoon, Mr. Chambers. Sorry about the delay." Now, this is a hell of a delay, 2.5 years later. "I'm trying to ascertain if, before you left the island, an agreement on payment of some funds was made and CI $2,802.40 paid to you. This is in order to come to a final figure which has been calculated. Please advise. Also, I'm trying to get the enrollment form to scan to you so that funds can be paid until registration occurs," something. So
And
2.5 years later, this man from the labor office is emailing you?
yes, ma'am. And this time now, I'm in a better position to download the form, which I did not receive a attachment to download the form.
Wow.
So I'm still waiting on that attachment.
Further explanation as to why he says so nonchalantly, "Sorry for the delay"? I mean, you get the sense like it was a week's delay, but this is years later.
When I saw the emails, I tell you, I was driving. I had to pull off the highway and actually read it just to make sure that I saw the proper name in the email.
Wow. My God. I mean, I know he's claiming he's busy, but this is quite a long time. In the last email 2 years ago, he was saying to you that you might be out of time. And it's ironic that he bothers to take essentially another 2 years to even get back to you to say, you know, this, that, and the next thing. Now, initially, Mr. Best was saying, you know, we have an issue here because we don't have any documentation. The company didn't maintain your records, which is interesting. And it questions, you know, their record keeping procedures. You had a little bit of issue with your records, but were you not paid a set salary per hour? And did you not know more or less what your average work week was?
Look, we get pay per hour per flight. Yeah, so if you don't work a certain amount of hour, you doesn't get any money. So I'm always at work
Yeah.
because I'm living so close to the airport. That's everything. My phone is called, and I have to straight across, whether it's the hangar, the ticket office, or by the airport.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in my mind, it shouldn't have been very difficult for the pension office to figure out, do some manual calculations on average, even what you would have been paid, and then what deductions were probably made from your paycheck.
Yes, ma'am.
Because,
Because
yes, go ahead.
I'm pretty much sure the documents are upstairs, the office upstairs at the airport. So they still have the file there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so even if they were saying, okay, there's no records available, that doesn't mean that the matter just disappears or you ignored the request. Ironically, they could come back at some point, obviously, and give Mr. Best that figure of your final payout of $2,800 and something dollars. So why was it, I have to wonder, 2 years previous to that, he was saying that they had no records?
When he emailed me, actually, there was my son was in the car with me, and I was explaining to him. He said, I've spoken to this gentleman like from 2017, and I'm wondering
Mhm.
if it's because I reached out to you.
Right?
Why he emailed me? 'Cause I was so shocked when I saw the emails. I said,
Yeah.
maybe it's you. Why he reached back out to me? Because
Yes.
when the first Miss Wendy reached out to him,
Mhm.
he called me. I remember he called me one morning and says, "Didn't I tell you I was working on it?" And I said, "Yeah, I don't want to tell any lie on him." Yes, he said, "Didn't I tell you I was working on it?" And I said, "But you're taking long and you're not corresponding to me." And then the call went dead. He didn't
Mhm.
call back nor email again. When I reached out back to her on WhatsApp, she said, "If I know that Mr. Seymour is a minister," I said, "Yes," and everything went dead from there. Cool.
Mhm. Interesting. Because, we had told people in our WhatsApp news group that there was a story coming. We didn't give them any specifics really, but we said an existing member of this government for non-payment of pension. So um, that is interesting that all of a sudden a man who has no communications with you for over 2 years can miraculously reach out and make representations with more concrete information all of a sudden. Oh, now we know how much you were paid in your last paycheck. Let's get the ball moving. Let's scan this and send it to you. I mean, you couldn't scan it over the past 2 years. Did you not have access to a scanner at the pension office? Like, I don't understand this.
And he said he was gonna send me a form now to
Right.
fill out, but I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the
Yeah,
next
and that
email
was
yet.
that was
So
August the 21st, and now we're
yes, ma'am.
almost a month later, and you still
Yes,
haven't
ma'am.
received the form.
No, ma'am.
Wow. So either this is straight up government incompetence, which is possible in the Cayman Islands, or there's something a little bit more shady going on here.
I think so.
I'll let the people decide for themselves which of those it could be.
Okay.
So, Mr. Donovan, the bottom line is money was deducted from your pay for pension. You were not registered, it seems like, from the sound of it, because they couldn't even find any record of you whatsoever. So it appears that the entire 9 years that you worked for APS, you were not even registered in a pension fund. And
Yes,
so in
ma'am.
my mind,
But I
someone
remember,
owes you.
I remember signing the form for
You
Brit
signed
K.
the form. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. And did you ever receive any statements or anything from Brit K? Do you recall ever getting a pension statement from them?
No, I've never received none. But as I said, working with Mr. Seymour, he he's very good at convincing people. Trust me.
Right.
And yeah, you feel like you're safe and secure because you're working in a company that is well established in the Cayman Islands. And
Mm-hmm.
when he comes, it doesn't. The thing about him, he doesn't walk like he doesn't know. He stops, even two words, shake
Mm-hmm.
your hand and keep moving. So you always have that self of security whenever time it comes
Right.
around. But hey, that was shady stuff.
Wow. Truly amazing. Now, Mr. Donovan, we know that you're a little bit pressed for time this evening and you could only stay with us for the first half an hour of this program. So we
Yes, ma'am.
appreciate you laying out the facts of what has transpired in your case. We're going to continue to have the conversation with our listeners about this. Quite ironically enough, what you might find interesting, I hope that perhaps later on you can go back and listen to the program. The same minister, Dwayne Seymour, has a lady working in his office in his MLA office as his, I guess, MLA secretary or whatever you want to call it, who has herself been in court for not paying pension funds for people because she owned a travel agency in the amount of like over $100,000 she has owed. So when this information came to light about your situation, I thought it was more than ironic that he has actually hired someone who's in that same situation, allegedly, not allegedly because she's in court, so hers is proven. She owes the money and the court is trying to force her to pay it. But in his case, allegedly owing people for their pension. So that's beyond ironic. So we're going to discuss some of those details after you've left the program. But I want to thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to reach out to Mr. Best officially now and see why he has taken so long to communicate with you these, years later. Before he follows up with an email saying, "Oh, sorry for the delay." Like this delay is just unacceptable, and it's shocking, really, that someone could go years without sending an email, and all they can say is "sorry for the delay." So, any final words before you bid us adieu this evening?
Yeah. Let's say the people of the Cayman Islands are nice. They welcome me, but working with Mr. Seymour, it's been an experience. It has been a trauma. But there are persons there that are working that's having the same problem that I'm having now, and they need to come forward and talk. Don't wait till you leave like I did, and then they start get a runaround. Come forward and talk. Make it be clear. It's not fair.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Donovan, we will be in touch with you. I don't know exactly who recommended you to us, but one thing they did give you in terms of very accurate information is we don't believe in letting things go. So we are like a dog with a bone. We're going to keep
Yes,
at
ma'am.
it until we can get some resolution and some action. And we're going to send
Okay.
this video actually to the Premier of the Cayman Islands, who's Mr. Alden McLaughlin, and say to him, one of your ministers is running a company where he is allegedly not paying into his pension fund. And, this minister just happens to be suing me in another matter as well. So I don't want to make any waves with him for him to think this is a personal thing. That's why I asked you for all of the documentation to support what you were saying. Because the first thing the minister will jump on is, Sandy Hill doesn't like me. I don't even know the minister, like him or otherwise. I know him in passing and that's it. And like you said, he's always seemed to be a nice enough guy. But this is about following the law. This isn't about being a nice guy. If you're going to own a company, you have to adhere to the law, and it's as simple as that. So, Mr. Donovan, thank you so much. I will be in touch with you, and I can assure you it won't be 2 years before you hear from me again.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Okay, dear. Have a good evening.
Yes, ma'am. You too. Thanks.
All right, folks. So if you're joining the program late for some reason, you will know that Mr. Donovan has been sharing with us how he worked for a company by the name of APS. And that company is owned by, at least partly or wholly, I don't really know, is owned by Mr. Dwayne Seymour, who's a representative from Boddentown East, I believe. I always get West and East confused, but Saunders, I believe, is West and he's East. And Mr. Donovan worked for APS for 9 years. He got rolled over. He left the Cayman Islands only to discover that his pension deductions were being made from his payroll, but were never actually paid into a pension fund. We showed you several emails where it's proof positive that he was trying to resolve this issue. He made contact first with the company for several years and got nowhere. He made contact with the Labor and Pensions Office, and they took years to respond between emails, which is just shocking and unbelievable. But at least they acknowledged that he had contacted them. In one email, they kind of said, well, you might be out of time, so we can't take it to summary court. I don't know what that means even. And then he comes back 2 years later and says, oh, well, you were paid $2,800. You know, do we know what that was for? We need to be able to calculate your pension. So I don't know why Mr. Best at the Labor and Pensions Office, he did say he's busy. But if you're too busy to handle a case like this, my God, what hope does the average person have out in the street who has an employer that isn't paying their pension fund? And like I said, the irony of this whole situation, I'm going to just try to pull up the story here, is I think her name is Mrs. Chin. Some travel, let me just find it here. She operated a travel agency here in the Cayman Islands. And here we go. I found the story. And she has not paid pension. So she was before the courts for several, at least over a year now, potentially even more than that, for non-payment of pension funds in excess of $100,000 to the best of my recollection. It says more than $90,000, so there we go. So this is Miss Teresa Chin. She was the sole director of TC Fahrenheit Trading as 123 Travels. You remember that case? And so she actually now works in the office, the political office in Bordentown of Mr. Seymour. And the last time she was in court some months ago, the magistrate Hernandez was saying, why have you not made any contributions to this pension fund? Oh, you know, she's claiming she doesn't have the money, this and that. And Hernandez has said, listen, this needs to be deducted from your salary. Now, she works for government, so this should be really easy. Because when you work for an MLA now, they have, as of the last election with single member constituencies, all of that runs through central government. So those people get their paycheck from central government, right? They're entitled to pension. They get pension from the government, AKA the people of the Cayman Islands. They will get full coverage for insurance. It's not like she has to find insurance or have money deducted for a pension. Plus she gets her salary right from government coffers. So I don't know if Magistrate Hernandez has realized this or not, but perhaps she needs to have her salary deductions come automatically from Treasury to repay these pension fund monies that she owes. But it's very ironic, I think, again, that someone who has little to no respect for the laws would actually hire someone who themselves have apparently had no respect for the same pension law. So let me read some of your comments. Amanda says, how was he getting permits approved? Immigration Board requests proof of pension. Amanda, that's a fantastic question, and I don't have the answer to that. It appears that Mr. Donovan did not even have a record. You know, he signed up, he said he remembers signing the pension form, but the pension company has no record of him. So we have seen in the past that sometimes immigration, DCI, which issues the license, they weren't always able to communicate as efficiently with each other. So sometimes information was missing, or it took them years to even recognize that someone, you know, didn't have their pension being paid into. And this is why I say quite emphatically that it is the responsibility of the employee to make sure your employer is paying into your pension fund and to question it if they are not. You got to stay on top of this stuff because there are too many shady and unscrupulous employers here in the Cayman Islands. Mr. Donovan trusted the minister. He said he seemed like a stand-up guy. You know, he would shake his hand. Yes, you know, I like to shake your hand. That means that you're a real man. Well, you know what? Real men pay into their pension funds when they own a company because they recognize that their workers will need that money for retirement or later on in their life. And they do the right thing. Real men believe in following the laws of the country that they're actually helping to run and to operate. So how can someone who doesn't pay the pension fund for their own company ever say to you as a minister, well, you need to do it, and we're going to implement all these laws and regulations that you as the people in this country need to follow when you yourself, Mr. Minister, is not following the law. It's called being a hypocrite. That's what it is. So, Mr. Ron, thank you so much for joining into the program this evening. Ron says, good evening, very good service that you're providing to the people who don't understand these politicians and laws that they put in place. Seymour should be ashamed of himself and be forced to step down from office. We can't continue, let me just see the rest of the message. We can't continue to keep dishonest, corrupt politicians in the government. Mr. Ron, thank you so much for that comment, and I agree 100% with you there. Evelyn, she's chuckling a little bit, so it's something that tickled her bone. Sorry, I think I'm going to sneeze. Sorry. Mr. Joseph says this is so sad. It is sad, you know, because it's the law and the pensions needed to be paid. There's really no excuse for this type of behavior. Mr. Nathan says, I know a few people as well where their pension is being withdrawn from pay and not going into the pension company. Folks, if this is you, you need to reach out to the Labor Pension Office. Although they seem overwhelmed, they need to get with it. They need to do the right thing and start investigating these cases. Now, it's ironic that initially in May of 2017, Mr. Best actually admitted that he was already in communication with this company and he already had access to their records, and that's how he could tell Mr. Donovan that there was actually no record there of him at all as an employee of APS, which means in my mind that there were other people likely who complained about non-compliance with, at the very least, the pension law, and God knows what else, you know, because when Labor and Pension is looking at your records and they can say something to you like, oh, we're already in talks with this company, they're in talks with the company for a reason. And normally that means there has been a breach of the labor and pension laws of this country. So Mr. Joseph says, who is Mr. Seymour? Well, he's now the Minister of Health and something else. We can look up his title if you'll give me just a second here to do that. I'm sorry. I just know health as his primary responsibility. So, right. So Minister Seymour, let us see here. I think there's a number. So he is health, Minister of Health, Environment, Culture, and Housing. So those are the things that fall under his responsibility as of the last election. And again, he is one of the representatives from Bodden Town. So that's his official title. He's also been, you know, a representative of the people previous to this. So you remember that he actually was, which is ironic, from 2012 to 2013, this I think was when they had kicked McKeever out and there was like an interim government in place. He got a ministerial position and he was Minister of Community Affairs, Gender, and Housing at that particular time. And he was the third elected member of Bodden Town back then. And that was his first term as a member of the Legislative Assembly, which he started in 2009. Sorry about that. So again, just as he's starting his political career, this is a man who has less than an impressive record in terms of paying pension plans for his employees. Now, Mr. Joseph says, okay, really, I can't believe that he would do that. Well, we've seen the fact that, you know, it's his company. And so as the employer, he has to take full responsibility for complete non-compliance. Nathan says Labor Board is a joke. Sorry to say. Well, it is sad to say that, but the facts are the facts. Can't argue with you. I think anybody's a joke who takes 2 years to respond to an email, and there's a big lapse in correspondence that doesn't make any logical sense, except they know that now Cayman Mall Road is about to expose this, and then all of a sudden you now care again? Come on. Mr. Joseph says, yes, a true labor board. Yes, a true labor board is a waste of time. But listen, Regardless of that, Amanda, thanks for reminding me, it's 123 Travels. Regardless of that, you have to be vigilant about reporting this, because the only way the labor board will know what's going on, or at least have a record of it, is if you follow the steps and report it. Now listen, in this case with Mr. Donovan, they've obviously failed him. They haven't done a very good job, but he can still go back to his emails and say, hey, I contacted them. Here's the proof. He has his emails dating back years. And we see what Mr. Best said at the Labor and Pension Office. Mr. Best, who's a senior, not just started on the job, but a senior labor and pension officer, says, oh, you might be out of time. I don't think this will go to summary court. This is a criminal matter. Come again. I'm not quite understanding you here. Charles Whitaker joins the conversation. He says, if this is true, it amounts to fraud, which by law disqualifies a person for holding public office. Is that the law? Well, he would have to be convicted, first of all. I don't know under the law if pension, non-payment of pension is considered fraudulent. I do get the point that you're saying, because basically you're taking money from someone and you're not paying it into their pension fund. But I can tell you that the courts seem very keen to try to give persons every single opportunity possible to pay into their pension fund. So even when they haven't done so, and they've gone for years, as we've seen time and time again, when they go to court, the court gives them the benefit of a payment plan. You know, so you've deprived someone of their pension. Listen, not just deprive them of their pension, but you've actually deprived them of the interest during all of those years as well. And now you come back and they're going to be like, okay, now we'll put you in a payment plan because you owe $50,000, $100,000. We're going to give you time to pay it. It does really seem unfair. And there should be criminal charges laid against people, and people should go to jail for this. Do you remember when Mr. Mario Ebanks was running the pension office? At one point, he was actually the head of the pension and labor department. And he had put up a website naming and shaming companies who were not paying their pension funds. And everybody was up in arms about that. Oh, you can't name and shame people. That's wrong, blah, blah, blah. But yet it appears that that was probably the only way to get some people to do the right thing. So it's unfortunate, but maybe that sort of method of doing things needs to return to ensure that people are going to do the right thing. We have a lot of breaches of this pension law and even health insurance right here in the Cayman Islands. It's disgusting. All right, Mr. Nathan says, I'm going on almost 2 years now and still can't get through with these people. Wow. See, this is what I'm telling you. It's deplorable, to be quite frank and honest. Mr. Dean says, this is common thing here. That's why they get permit workers. Even Caymanians are being stolen from. The government is doing the stealing. And I can tell you, Mr. Dean, you're absolutely correct. It's happening across the board. It's a lot of different people, Caymanians and expats alike. But I do agree with you that a lot of companies feel like they can get away with doing it more with an expat because, you know, once you get rolled over, it's less likely that you're going to even bother to contact the labor office, to wait 2 years for an email response, to follow up with them, you know, all of those things. So I do agree with you that there are people who seek out, companies in particular, who seek out foreign labor for a couple primary reasons. Number one, it's cheap normally for foreigners to pay them. So you get cheap labor. That's the intent. You know, they'll put up with a lot. So they'll put up with lesser salaries a lot of times, and they'll put up with poor treatment. So they'll put up with, you know, people not paying pension insurance, and they don't want to make any waves because they're here in a work permit. Now imagine if another member of the media can contact after being contacted by Mr. Donovan, can say to him, oh, do you not realize that he's a minister? Well, of course, Mr. Donovan now knows that he's a minister, and so what? In fact, it makes it far worse that you're a minister and you are refusing to follow the laws of this country. That's deplorable. So I don't know why Wendy said that to him, because Wendy doesn't normally kind of run away from stuff. But I don't know if she was having a rough week or if the government was really riding her hard, because I know they've been riding her position in this whole port thing because they feel like she's being very supportive of the other side. So I don't know why Wendy said that to him and why she didn't follow up on this, because the evidence is there that this man is owed money. I can't tell you how much money it is over the 9 years, but I can tell you he's owed money, and that's against the law. Okay. All right. Mr. Dave says Cayman is a scam to expats. What next is to come? They changed the pension law to make sure we leave Cayman with nothing. Labor is filled with families and friends of business owners. No justice is at labor board. Wow, that's a sad indictment on this country. And again, I don't even know who the current labor minister is. Thank God it's not Mr. Seymour, because I think we'd have a real problem. Let me see, does anyone know off the top of your head who is the current labor minister? We certainly don't hear much about any sort of labor issues coming forward. I'm just looking at their platform now. So we have Juliana O'Connor Conley, we have Minister Hugh, who's Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure. So it looks like Alden McLaughlin has the Ministry of Employment and Border Control, which I think would be the new Works Agency and the new CBC. And I don't know if, based on what's here, it probably would be the Premier, that would fall under him. Yes, well, we're going to find out for sure. So again, Mr. Premier would be the right person to speak to a cabinet member about this kind of behavior. Mr. Nathan says, that's so true. I've been through it, a case now for almost 2 years and still can't get through. It's so wrong here. DM Robert says, Labor and Pension Office don't do anything because they are friends with these employers, I'm assuming you meant to say. They do nothing about it. It's really messed up. And if you inquire, you lose your job. It's ridiculous. Very sad. The cold hard truth, folks. That's what this program is called. And I tell you what, it's a sad reality for a lot of people here in the Cayman Islands. And you know, it's not really any solace for you guys as an expat in this country, but there are a lot of Caymanians that it's happening to as well. I mean, I had been in a job in the past, actually 2 jobs, where the employer wasn't paying into my pension fund. They were out there buying new boats with their salary company money instead of paying the pension. You know, they were out there living this life, but you know what? I stayed on it like white on rice. They were not going to get away with it. I would email the pension office. I would email the Department of Labor and Pensions. I would email the pension administrator. And once I recognized that a payment or 2 were missed, I said, oh no, you need to catch up on this ASAP. And in one case, the company actually decided to move their headquarters overseas. And I said, before you leave and before you terminate my employment, you better show me proof that my pension has been paid up 100% up to this date. Otherwise, we are going to have a problem. And that's the approach that people have got to take to protect their own rights in this country. So Marvell Ebanks has joined the conversation. Marvell says, well, you said that you're going to reach out to Alden and tell him about this. And if you do that, he should do something about it once it's been brought to his attention. Because if he doesn't, wouldn't that make Alden now guilty of Penal Code Section 320, neglect to prevent commission of certain offenses? Section 320 states that a person who, knowing that a person designs to commit an offense, fails to use all reasonable means to prevent the commission or completion thereof shall, if such offense is punishable with 2 years imprisonment or more. I think it should have said shall be guilty of an offense or something, but we get the picture in terms of what you're saying. The thing here, though, Marvell, he's already committed the offense. This is the past tense. He hasn't paid the pension for at least Mr. Donovan and probably other workers, and they need to come forward. They all need to come forward. But like I said in the previous email, it does appear that the Labor and Pensions Office was already carrying out an investigation of some sort requesting records, and they appear to know more than they even let on with Mr. Donovan. Okay, so Mr. Joseph says that he needs to talk to me. Mr. Joseph, send a private message, please, and we'll reach out to you. Stephanie says, and they still don't pay it, even when the court says so. Cayman is so lawless when it comes to employees and landlords that rent you rat nest for a heap of money with no consequences. And that's another situation. We may get into that one, Stephanie, on Thursday's show, because you'll see how small Cayman is and how interconnected people are. And unfortunately, it seems like people who do wrong are always connected with each other and they stick together. And so it's very interesting that you should say that, because we mentioned Miss Teresa Chin of 123 Travels, and there was something that just emerged over the weekend with her daughter, who apparently is a landlord, renting a facility to someone, and some real interesting things went on there. So we're going to be talking about more landlord and tenant issues coming up. Although we have talked about it before, we cannot stop, because nothing will ever change if we do. And then Stephanie says, yes, if it happens to Caymanians, it does happen to Caymanians as well. Charles says, it's the real Alden McLaughlin, aka Premier Satan. Good luck with that. Satan doesn't care about Caymanians. He's going to help. Laughing out loud, way on it. If he going to help. Okay, I didn't quite get that last bit there. However, what I would say is, I'm going to have a little bit of faith in the Premier that now that he is more than aware of the situation, he can speak to the minister and get him to sort out his labor issues, because I'm pretty sure now that this is out in the public domain, that other people from APS will be reaching out and making contact with me. We have 3 minutes left in the program. I'm going to read a couple more of your comments. Ron, thank you so much for joining in. Juliet, we will reach out to you. Let me just take down your number here so that we can give you a call. It probably won't be until tomorrow, but we can definitely make a note. Just send me a message in the private messenger within Facebook as well, because sometimes I get so many requests that I got to tell you, there are times I do forget. Ron says, yes, the labor and pension laws here are a real joke, and the people of the Cayman Islands should also demand that laws and the board be straightened out and cleaned up. And listen, the Labor and Pension Department isn't a board, they're a department. And so they are a department of government. They have to follow the law. They have a certain legal remit, and they should be holding these employers accountable. And when they are not, they are failing their jobs. And hello, we're the people who work very hard to pay all of the duties, taxes, licensing fees, government fees, this, that, and the next thing, to make sure that the government has money to pay civil servants. And so civil servants themselves have a responsibility to do a certain job properly. So I'm also going to reach out on behalf of Mr. Donovan to the head of the civil service, which is Mr. Francis Manderson, as deputy governor. And I'm also going to reach out to the head of Labor and Pensions Office, which I don't know off the top of my head who that is right now, because I think there was a recent appointment maybe a year or so ago. But I will find out who that person is, and I will reach out to them, show them the email evidence that we have, so that they can make some inquiries into what's going on. Somehow I don't imagine that Mr. Donovan is owed $50,000, even $25,000. It's probably not a whole lot of money, because I'm sure he was making minimum wage at his security job at the airport. And like he said, if they didn't work, they didn't make any money. So he just made sure that he signed up for as much of the shifts as possible and showed up to work so that he could pay his bills and support his family. It is unfair to have employees working for you as an employer and you do not pay their pension fund. You know, I'm a small business owner. One of the reasons why I don't hire anybody if I can help it is because I can't afford to pay you, pay pension, pay, I just can't afford to do it. So I keep my business small enough where I can manage it myself. Problem solved. But you cannot be in the position where you want this big company, have 25, 30 people working for you. You know, you're driving around like a big shot. You got a nice home. You got all these kids that you can do stuff with. You can put them in private school. You're living a good life. But your workers who make minimum wage can barely scratch by, still on top of that, have to be insulted by not having their pension and their insurance plans paid, which is against the law. Mr. Seymour, I am asking you, I'm not a constituent in your area. I am in Town, but not in your particular area. So I'm just asking you as a decent person in this community, in this country, to please do the right thing by Mr. Donovan and anyone else for that matter that you might owe money through your company, APS, at the airport. You have a company that makes money. Presumably the company is profitable, or you probably wouldn't still be in business. You're also a minister of a portfolio in the Cayman Islands government. So that's another $12,000 plus per month that you're receiving. Not to mention somebody pays your pension, you get a pension contribution from government, which would be us, the people who pay that indirectly. And you also get free healthcare off of the back of the country. So all we're asking for you to do is to ensure that the people who are supposed to be getting paid their pension and insurance, that is actually happening. We have Mr. Donovan's contact information. If you'd like to reach out to Cayman Mall Road, we can provide that to you. In fact, I will do one better than that. I will email you directly as of tomorrow with Mr. Donovan's contact number and his email address. I will copy the premier on it and all of the respective parties, Pension Labor Department, Mr. Best, all of those people, asking you kindly, dear sir, to please follow the law. Simply do the right thing. We cannot continue to be a lawless country where the rules apply to some people, but not to others. It just isn't fair. And it's not fair to the people who don't get their pension paid or their health insurance or whatever else. Human dignity. You went around shaking your workers' hands, saying, oh, you know you can trust the man when he'll shake your hand, and you can tell so much by a man by shaking his hand and he's trustworthy. Well, we're calling you out, Mr. Minister, as someone who doesn't appear to be very trustworthy based on the fact that no pension has been paid for at least this particular man and possibly even more. Now, there's more to come on Minister Seymour. We have another case of an incident that happened recently at an under 17 soccer match. We're hoping to have all of the case for that particular situation ready for you by next month. Sometimes it takes time for us to do a proper investigation and for us to get all of the details together. Sometimes the parties involved in these situations are taking certain measures to see if Alden, the Premier of the Cayman Islands, will do anything about his rogue minister, if the police will do anything about ministers of government who commit illegal acts. And so we have respected, in this case, the person who is involved in this, their time to try to go through alternative means. We will be covering it regardless of the outcome, because the people of this country deserve to know the caliber of persons they continually elect to run this country. And I'm going to say this to all of you with a lot of sincerity. You would be shocked of the hypocrisy and the wrongdoing that's occurring by these so-called ministers. Folks, stay tuned. This has been another episode of The Cold Hard Truth. We are here to expose the cold hard truth. And guess what? Everybody is fair game. Caymanians, expats, ministers of government, we're not showing any favoritism towards anybody. If you do it, you will be exposed. Simple as that. Have a wonderful evening, folks, and I do appreciate you tuning into the program. Hopefully, we'll be here on Thursday evening, God's willing, and I wish that all of you remain safe until then.
You don't know who I am, but I know all about you. I've come to talk to you tonight about the things I've seen. I've come to set the record straight. I've come to shine the light on you. Let me introduce myself. I am the cold